They said she was too young, too inexperienced, too emotional to handle real combat. But when enemy missiles started raining down and every senior pilot was either shot down or too scared to fly, Lieutenant Sarah Chen was the only one left standing in the hangar. What happened next changed everything we thought we knew about courage under fire. If you've ever been told you're not ready, not good enough, or just not the right fit, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button because sometimes the person everyone overlooks becomes the hero everyone needs. Lieutenant Sarah Chen had been at Falcon Base for 8 months. While other pilots spent their evenings in the officers' club, swapping war stories and comparing flight hours, Sarah stayed in the simulator. Night after night, she practiced emergency scenarios that most pilots hoped they'd never face. The other pilots knew her name, but that's about it. She was polite when spoken to, professional in briefings, but she never pushed herself into conversations. To most of them she was just Chin, the quiet backup pilot who flew cargo runs and training missions. What they didn't know was that Sarah had logged more simulator hours than anyone else on base. What they didn't see was her studying flight manuals until 2 a.m., memorizing every system, every emergency procedure, every possible scenario that could go wrong at 30,000 feet. Major Williams, the squadron leader, once joked at a briefing, "Chen's got the book knowledge, but combat isn't about what you read in manuals." The room chuckled. Sarah just nodded and took notes. But here's what Major Williams didn't know. Sarah wasn't just reading manuals. She was preparing for something she hoped would never come but knew eventually would. It started like any other Tuesday morning. The squadron was scheduled for routine patrol flights over the disputed border zone. Nothing special, nothing dangerous, just standard reconnaissance that had been going on for months without incident. Sarah wasn't even on the primary flight roster. She was listed as standby pilot, base support, basically. Her job was to stay grounded and monitor communications while the real pilots handled the mission. At 0800 hours, 8 F-16s rolled down the runway. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, and hotel flights. The best pilots Falcon Base had to offer. Sarah watched from the control tower, headset on, clipboard ready. "Just another milk run," Captain Rodriguez said over the radio as his flight disappeared into the morning sky. Sarah stayed at her post, tracking flight paths on the radar screen. Everything looked normal. Routine patrol patterns, clear weather, no unusual radio chatter from enemy forces in the area. Then at 0847, everything went wrong. The first missile came out of nowhere. Hotel flight, Captain Morrison and Lieutenant Kim, were hit before they even knew they were under attack. 2 F-16s gone in seconds. "Mayday, mayday." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the static. "We're taking heavy fire. Multiple SAM sites. They were waiting for us." Sarah's hands flew over the communications panel, trying to coordinate rescue efforts, but the situation was deteriorating faster than anyone could respond. Golf flight took a direct hit trying to help Hotel. Foxtrot flight's engine caught fire during evasive maneuvers. One by one, Sarah watched the dots disappear from her radar screen or heard panicked voices reporting system failures, fuel leaks, and emergency landings in hostile territory. Within 20 minutes, 6 of the 8 aircraft were either shot down, crashed, or limping back to base with critical damage. Only Alpha and Bravo flights remained airborne, but they were low on fuel and reporting multiple system failures. In the command center, panic was setting in. Colonel Harrison paced behind the radio operators, his face gray with worry. "What do we have available for immediate deployment?" he barked. The answer was devastating. Every combat-ready pilot was either in the air in the hospital, or had already been shot down. The backup pilots were either too inexperienced for combat or currently grounded for various reasons. "Sir," the operations officer said quietly, "we have one F-16 ready for immediate takeoff." "Who's our pilot?" The room went silent. Everyone looked at Sarah, still at her communications post, still tracking the remaining aircraft, still doing her job while everything fell apart around her. "Lieutenant Chen, sir. But she's never flown combat." Colonel Harrison looked at Sarah. She looked back, calm and steady. "Chen," he said. "You think you can handle this?" Sarah didn't hesitate. "Yes, sir." "This isn't a training exercise, Lieutenant. There are SAM sites out there we didn't know about. Advanced systems. They've been planning this ambush for weeks." "I understand, sir." Major Williams stepped forward. "Sir, with respect, she's never been tested under fire. Maybe we should wait for reinforcements from Phoenix Base." Sarah spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "Major, with respect, Alpha and Bravo flights don't have time to wait for reinforcements. They need support now." The colonel studied her for a long moment. What's your plan, Lieutenant? Sarah walked to the tactical display, pointing to the map with precision. The SAM sites are positioned here, here, and here based on the attack patterns. They're expecting conventional approach vectors. But if I come in low, following the river valley, I can avoid their primary radar coverage and get behind their positions. That's extremely dangerous terrain, Chin. One mistake and you're flying into a mountain. I've practiced that route in the simulator 47 times, sir. I know every ridge, every turn. The room was silent except for the crackling radio chatter from the pilots still in the air, growing more desperate by the minute. Colonel Harrison made his decision. Get to your aircraft, Lieutenant. You're cleared for immediate takeoff. Sarah ran across the tarmac to her F-16, her mind already shifting into combat mode. Everything she had studied, everything she had practiced, every scenario she had memorized, it all came down to this moment. As she strapped into the cockpit, her crew chief looked worried. You sure about this, Lieutenant? Sarah looked at him calmly. I've been ready for this longer than anyone knows. The F-16 roared to life. Sarah ran through her pre-flight checks with methodical precision, not rushed, not panicked, just focused. Even with lives hanging in the balance, she refused to skip steps or cut corners. Control Tower, this is Dragon Flight requesting immediate takeoff clearance. Dragon Flight, you are cleared for takeoff. Good hunting. Sarah pushed the throttles forward. The F-16 shot down the runway and climbed into the sky like a rocket. But instead of following the standard flight path, she immediately banked hard left, dropping to just 200 feet above the ground. She followed the river valley exactly as she had planned, the F-16's wings nearly scraping the canyon walls. It was dangerous, it was unconventional, and it was exactly what the enemy wasn't expecting. Sarah's radar picked up the SAM sites before they detected her. 3 installations exactly where she had predicted. Advanced Russian-made systems that had been hidden in the mountains for months, waiting for this moment. Alpha Flight, this is Dragon. I have visual on your position. Stay high and keep their attention. I'm going to take out their air defenses. Dragon, who is this? This isn't Captain Morrison's voice. This is Lieutenant Chin. Alpha Flight, trust me and follow my lead. There was a pause. Then Captain Rodriguez's voice came back. Copy that, Dragon. We're with you. Sarah lined up her first attack run. The SAM site was positioned on a ridge, camouflaged but visible to someone who knew what to look for. She had studied these exact systems for months, memorizing their capabilities, their blind spots, their weaknesses. She came in fast and low, the F-16 screaming between the mountain peaks. The SAM operators never saw her coming. Her first missile hit perfectly, taking out the primary radar array. The second destroyed the launcher itself. 1 down, 2 to go. But now they knew she was there. The remaining SAM sites opened fire immediately. Missiles streaked through the sky, forcing Sarah into violent evasive maneuvers. The G-forces pressed her deep into her seat as she pulled hard turns that would have challenged even the most experienced pilots. But all those hours in the simulator paid off. Every twist, every dive, every desperate maneuver, she had practiced them all. Her hands moved over the controls with precision born from endless repetition. Dragon, you've got 2 missiles tracking you. Alpha Flight called out. Sarah didn't panic. She dove toward the valley floor, using the terrain to break the missile's radar lock. At the last second, she pulled up sharply, the missiles impacting harmlessly into the mountainside behind her. The second SAM site was better prepared. They had repositioned after seeing what happened to the first installation. But Sarah had expected that too. Instead of attacking directly, she circled wide, coming in from an angle that put the sun behind her. The SAM operators were blinded just long enough for Sarah to get her shot off. Another perfect hit. 2 down, 1 to go. The last SAM site was the most dangerous. It was positioned in an open area with clear sight lines in all directions. No surprise attacks, no clever angles. Just a straight fight between Sarah's F-16 and their advanced air defense system. As she approached, her warning systems lit up like a Christmas tree. Multiple missiles were launched simultaneously, more than she could possibly evade using conventional tactics. This was the moment she had trained for. The scenario she had practiced over and over in the simulator while other pilots were relaxing in the officers' club. Sarah did something completely unexpected. Instead of trying to outrun the missiles, she flew directly toward them, using her aircraft's superior maneuverability to thread the needle between multiple incoming threats. It was insane. It was impossible. And it worked perfectly. The missiles, confused by her unconventional approach, lost their lock and flew past her harmlessly. Sarah used the confusion to close the distance to the SAM site. Her final attack was textbook perfect. Clean, precise, devastating. All 3 SAM sites were destroyed. With the air defenses neutralized, Sarah coordinated the rescue of the downed pilots. She provided air cover for the search and rescue helicopters, guided them to the crash sites, and made sure every wounded pilot made it home safely. When she finally landed back at Falcon Base, a crowd had gathered on the tarmac. Word had spread quickly about what the quiet backup pilot had accomplished. Colonel Harrison was waiting for her as she climbed out of the cockpit. "Outstanding work, Lieutenant. That was some of the finest flying I've ever seen." Sarah just nodded. "Thank you, sir. Just doing my job." Major Williams approached, looking somewhat embarrassed. "Chin, I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you." Sarah looked at him calmly. "No apology necessary, sir. I understand why you had doubts. I hadn't proven myself yet." "How long have you been preparing for something like this?" "Every day since I arrived here, sir. I figured if I was going to be the backup pilot, I better make sure I was ready when I was needed." Later that evening, after all the debriefings and paperwork, Sarah sat alone in the simulator room. She wasn't running training scenarios this time, she was just sitting quietly thinking about the day. Captain Rodriguez found her there. His arm was in a sling from his emergency landing, but he was alive thanks to her actions. "Mind if I sit down?" he asked. Sarah nodded. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "You saved all of us out there. You would have done the same for me." Rodriguez smiled. "Maybe. But here's the thing, you were ready when it mattered. All those nights you spent in here while we were playing cards or watching movies, you were preparing for today." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I never wanted to be the hero," she said finally. "I just wanted to be ready if I was needed." "That's what makes you the hero," Rodriguez replied. Lieutenant Sarah Chin still flew from Falcon Base, but things were different now. She wasn't the backup pilot anymore, she was the squadron's youngest flight leader, training new pilots and sharing the lessons she had learned. But she still spent evenings in the simulator. Still studied manuals until late at night. Still prepared for scenarios she hoped would never happen. Because that's what real heroes do. They don't wait for recognition or permission. They don't make speeches about how ready they are. They just prepare, quietly and thoroughly, for the moment when everything depends on them being at their best. One evening, a new pilot fresh out of flight school and nervous about her first assignment, approached Sarah after a training session. "Lieutenant Chin," she said hesitantly, "I've heard the stories about what you did. How did you know you were ready?" Sarah smiled. "I didn't know. I just refused to let that stop me from being prepared." The young pilot looked confused. "But what if you hadn't been ready?" "Then I would have failed," Sarah said simply. "But the people who needed me would have been no worse off than if I hadn't tried at all." Sometimes the only difference between failure and success is being willing to try when everyone else has given up. Sarah Chin didn't become a hero because she was the loudest, the most confident, or the most experienced pilot on base. She became a hero because she prepared in silence, served without complaint, and stepped forward when others stepped back. She proved that sometimes the person everyone overlooks is exactly the person everyone needs. The quiet ones. The backup plans. The people who do their job without seeking glory. They're the ones who save the day when the day needs saving most. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button. Because the world needs more people who prepare in silence and deliver when it matters. And don't forget to share this with someone who might need to hear that being underestimated isn't a weakness, it's an opportunity to prove everyone wrong. What do you think? Who in your life has surprised everyone by rising to the moment when it mattered most? Share their story in the comments below.